So today we'll do the perineum. So perineum is a lowermost part of the human body or the abdomen, and it is well seen in the lithotomy position. In the lithotomy position, patient is lying supine at the edge of the table, and here the pelvis is in the lithotomy position. So anteriorly come the pubic symphysis, and laterally the ischiopubic ramus, and posteriorly the tip of the coccyx, and laterally the sacrotuberous ligament. So this diamond-shaped area so formed is called the perineum. So this is the perineum seen in the lithotomy position by an imaginary line which is drawn at the level of the ischial tuberosity. It is divisible into the anterior triangle, which is called the urogenital triangle. So this triangle is called the urogenital triangle, and the posterior triangle, this is called the anal triangle, which contains the anal canal. So it is divisible into two triangles, anteriorly urogenital and posteriorly the anal triangle by line at the ischial tuberosity. Now first we will take the urogenital diagram. The urogenital triangle, the features of the urogenital triangle, they are: in the dissection part, when we do the dissection, so perineum is continuous with the anterior or the abdomen. So first is the skin. So we remove the skin of the perineum or the urogenital triangle. So here we find the below the skin is the fatty layer or the superficial fascia. In the abdomen, this fatty layer is called the campus fascia, but in the perineum it is called just the fatty layer. When you remove this fatty layer or the superficial fascia, we see again there is a superficial second layer that is called the membranous layer or scarpa fascia in the abdomen. The same scarpa fascia, when it comes into the urogenital triangle, now its name changes to Cooley's fascia. So when we remove this Cooley's fascia, now we encounter the fourth layer from the skin is the deep perineal fascia. This deep perineal fascia is attached laterally to the ischiopubic ramus, and posteriorly it doesn't go into the anal triangle, but it ends at this line. Same, the Cooley's fascia also ends at the line dividing the anal triangle with the urogenital triangle, and both Cooley's fascia and the deep perineal fascia both are continuous and fused here along this line. And when we trace the deep perineal fascia superiorly, then laterally attached to the ischiopubic ramus, posteriorly it is fused with the Cooley's fascia, and when we proceed to superiorly, what we see that it is continuous with the rectus sheath of the abdomen, because abdomen doesn't have got the deep fascia. So the deep fascia of the perineum is continuous with the rectus sheath of the abdomen. When we remove this deep perineal fascia, what we find here, below the deep fascia, everywhere in the human body lies the muscle. So here also lies the muscles. Now actually these muscles, they belong to the superficial perineal pouch. So muscles of the deep perineal, superficial perineal pouch is the first is the superficial transverse perineal muscle, and they are inserted on the perineal body in the midline. So they take origin from the medial surface of the ischial tuberosity. And second muscle is the bulbospongiosus. So bulbospongiosus muscle, it takes origin from the perineal body, and right and left they meet in the midline to form the median raphe, which also gives the origin to this bulbospongiosus muscle. So this is the superficial part. Then its deep part then goes around the urethra, and it encircles around the urethra, and compression of this muscle causes the evacuation of the last drop of the urine. So this is the superficial. Then its superficial part goes on the dorsal surface of the urethra, and they form the compressor urethrae also, and they are responsible for the avoidance of the last drop of the urine from the urethra. And so this is the superficial part, this is the deep part of the bulbospongiosus muscle. So they constitute the corpus spongiosum of the penis. Then the third muscle of the superficial perineal pouch is the ischiocavernosus. As its name suggests, ischiocavernosus takes origin from the ischiopubic ramus. And then these muscle fibers, then they run upward and they form the corpus cavernosum of the penis. So these muscles in the shaft of the penis, they are arranged in the circular manner and they encircle the deep artery of the penis. So this deep artery of the penis give the helicine branches to these muscles. So this muscle is called the ischiocavernosus. Cavernosus words come because of the arrangement of the muscle fiber. So these muscle fibers, they are arranged having their spaces in between the muscle fibers. So these are the cavernous spaces. So these cavernous spaces, they are filled with the blood when there is a erection of the penis. So the blood flow into the central artery, the vasodilation lead to the more flow of the blood into the penis, and these cavernous spaces of the ischiocavernosus muscle, they filled and they cause the thickness as well as the erection of the penis. So this is how in this model has been shown the corpus cavernosum, and two right and left ischiocavernosus muscle, they are forming the corpus cavernosum muscles here. Then when the nerve supply of these are the coming from the pudendal nerve. So pudendal nerve gives the perineal branch. So the perineal branch will supply these muscles of the superficial perineal pouch along with the perineal branches of the internal pudendal artery also supply these muscles. So they have been shown both from here. When we remove these muscles, we find another layer, and this is called the perineal membrane. So perineal membrane is a triangular membrane. Posteriorly it is fused with the deep perineal fascia and the Cooley's fascia. So Cooley's fascia, deep perineal fascia and the perineal membrane, all the three, they are fused on the posterior border, a line dividing the urogenital triangle with the anal triangle. Then laterally this perineal membrane is attached with the ischiopubic ramus, and anteriorly it ends as a free border. So anterior thick free border forms the transverse perineal ligament, and above it the lower part of the pubic symphysis here bears a ligament which is called the arcuate pubic ligament. So there is a gap between the arcuate pubic ligament and the transverse perineal ligament, and through this gap passes the dorsal vein, deep dorsal vein of the penis, and the dorsal nerve of the penis here on the both the sides. So the compression of this vein occlude the venous drainage of the penis and hence help in the erection of the penis. So this perineal membrane is pierced in male and female by so many structures. Then when we remove this perineal membrane, we encounter the superficial, we reach the deep perineal pouch. So superficially, the superficial perineal pouch lies between perineum and deep perineal fascia. So the space or the pouch between the deep perineal fascia and perineal membrane constitute what is called the superficial perineal space, with all these three muscles and the blood vessels and nerves supplying them. And when we remove the deep perineal membrane, then we reach the deep perineal pouch or the space, and the contents of the deep perineal pouch is the number one is the deep transverse perineal muscles which are inserted on the perineal body, and the second muscle is the sphincter urethrae or external urinary sphincter which is voluntary, and this muscle they form the circle. They take origin from the lateral part of the ischiopubic ramus, and they inserted here around the urethra. This constitutes the membranous part of the urethra. And in the female, the same sphincter urethrae muscles, they also surround the vagina, so they form the sphincter urethrovaginalis in the female. And they are also supplied by the pudendal nerve branches, S2, S3, S3, somatic branches. Because they supply the somatic branches of the perineal membrane, pudendal nerve, so they are both muscles, they are voluntary. So because of this voluntary nature of the nerve supply, we can compress the urethra and the external urinary meatus for some time because of this muscle attachment. When we remove these deep muscles, we reach the lower part, deep part of the perineum, and this is constituted what we call the levator ani muscle. Levator ani muscle with this inferior pelvic fascia, and above this is the superior pelvic, so levator ani. So this is how we do layer by layer dissection part of the what is called the perineum, that the urogenital triangle. Now the next part is the anal triangle. So anal triangle, as the name suggests, lies posteriorly from the line from the ischial tuberosity, and it's constituted in the midline, the skin. First we remove the skin of the anal triangle, then we find the superficial fascia here. The superficial fascia contains yellow colored fat, so we remove the fat from this anal triangle here. When we remove the fat is twice much. Actually, this area, the anal triangle, is nothing but this is the what is called. This triangle is ischiorectal or ischioanal fossa. Ischioanal fossa, they constitute. So centrally here lies the anal canal or the anus, opening of the anus in the midline here, and above this anus lies the rectum. Now we remove the fat from here. So this is the ischiorectal fat. So we remove from here. Then we see a hollow thing is there. From skin to the superficial fascia, that is the yellow color fat. And then when we remove whole of the fat from here, then here comes the deep fascia. So deep fascia below the superficial fascia of the anal triangle is called the lunate fascia. Now it is called lunate fascia because it is moon shape or lunar. So it is convex, concave inferiorly, and when we see from the abdominal side, it is convex. Why it becomes concave shape, moon shape? Because of we have stuffed a large amount of the ischiorectal fat is present here. And because above the anal canal, 4 centimeter anal canal, lies the rectum. And the word rectum means straight. So rectum has to be straight and in line with the anal canal. So what happens? So both the sides, this gap between the sacrotuberous ligament laterally and the rectum and anal canal medially, so much amount has been stuffed here to reach up to the anorectal junction. So when so much fat is supporting the anal canal both the sides, the same fat is also supporting the rectum from both the sides. And that's why rectum always remains straight. Because on the either side, there is just so much large, thick amount of the fat is there. So this is thick and deep from the skin only to make the rectum in this state. And making the deep fascia not horizontal, but it has becomes concave because of the large amount of the ischiorectal fat. When we remove this lunate fascia, then what we see, deep to this fascia lies we reach the perineum, we reach that is called the levator ani muscle. So below this, again the levator ani muscle or the muscle of the urogenital or the pelvic diaphragm, constituted by the levator ani muscle. So this is from the skin, solar fascia or ischiorectal fat, then lunate fascia. Below the lunate fascia comes the muscle. Which muscle? Levator ani muscle. So this is how we do the dissection of the ischiorectal fossa, or what is called the anal canal. Thank you.